A judge tells a single dad, "Spend one night with me, and I'll erase your sentence." And he decides, "Just before we start, I'm curious. What time is it where you are? Day or night? I'm grateful you're here." The gavel came down with finality that echoed through the courtroom like thunder. Joseph Carter felt his world collapse as Judge Isabella Sterling's words cut through the air. Custody is awarded to the state pending further evaluation. His 6-year-old daughter Maya's small hand tightened in her bright blue eyes wide with confusion. "Daddy, what does that mean?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the murmuring crowd. Joseph couldn't answer. His throat was closed with the weight of failure. Isabella Sterling sat behind the bench, her perfectly manicured fingers still resting on the gavel. At 34, she was the youngest family court judge in the state. Her reputation built on fairness and compassion. But today, something was different. Her usually warm brown eyes were cold, distant, as if she were looking through the people before her rather than at them. The Cartier watch on her wrist, a gift from her ex-husband before everything fell apart, ticked away the seconds of Joseph's devastation. The courtroom began to empty, but Joseph remained frozen in place. Mia tugged at his worn flannel shirt, the same one he'd worn to his job interview at the construction site last week, the job he'd lost when he had to miss work for this hearing. "Daddy, we need to go," Maya said, her voice stronger now. Protective even. At 6 years old, she'd learned to be the strong one when her father couldn't be. It was a weight no child should carry. Isabella watched them from her elevated position, something flickering across her face. Regret? No, something deeper. She stood abruptly, her black robes billowing as she moved. "Mr. Carter," she called out, her voice different now, less official. "Please wait in the hallway. I need to speak with you." The bailiff looked confused. This wasn't protocol. But Isabella Sterling didn't care about protocol anymore. Not after what she'd been through. Not after the text messages she'd found on her husband's phone 3 months ago. The ones that revealed 5 years of lies. Joseph hesitated, looking down at Maya. Her blonde hair was pulled back in the braids he'd learned to do from YouTube videos. Slightly crooked, but made with love. "Stay here with Officer Mills for just a minute, sweetheart," he said, forcing a smile. Officer Mills, a grandfather himself, nodded kindly and offered Mia his hand. "Come on, little one. I think I have some coloring books in my office." Mia looked between her father and the officer, her intelligence evident in how quickly she assessed the situation. "It's okay, Daddy. I'll be right here." The hallway outside the courtroom was dimly lit, the afternoon sun casting long shadows through the tall windows. Isabella stood near an alcove, her fingers nervously playing with her wedding ring. She still wore it, a reminder of her failure, her shame. Joseph approached cautiously, his work roughened, hands clenched at his sides. "Your Honor, if this is about my employment situation, I have 3 interviews lined up this week. I can provide for Maya. I just need stop." Isabella interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked around the empty hallway, then stepped closer. Joseph could smell her perfume, something expensive, foreign to his world of struggle and survival. "Mr. Carter, what I'm about to say, it's completely inappropriate." Her hands were shaking now. The composed judge who just torn his life apart was gone, replaced by someone desperate, broken. "I made a mistake in there. Your case, it didn't deserve that ruling." Joseph's confusion was evident. "Then reverse it. You have that power." Isabella laughed, but it was bitter, hollow. "It's not that simple. The review board is watching my every move since my divorce. My ex-husband, he's a state senator. He's made sure everyone knows I'm emotionally unstable. One reverse decision, especially one this public, and they'll have me removed from the bench." She paused, her next words catching in her throat. "But there is another way." The hallway seemed to grow colder. Joseph took a step back, instinct warning him that whatever came next would change everything. Isabella moved closer, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "Spend one night with me. Just one night, intensely, completely, and I'll find a legal loophole. I'll get your daughter back to you by Monday morning." The words hung in the air like poison, beautiful and deadly. Joseph's world tilted. He could hear Maya's laughter from the office down the hall, innocent and trusting. "You're insane," Joseph breathed, his voice rough with disbelief and disgust. "You're supposed to be justice. You're supposed to protect families, not this." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. She refused to let fall. "You think I don't know that? You think I don't hate myself for this? But I'm drowning, Mr. Carter. I've been alone for 3 months. My husband left me for his 22-year-old assistant. Everyone knows. Everyone pies me or mocks me. I need to feel something other than this pain." Joseph's hand moved to his pocket where his phone was recording everything. He'd started recording during the hearing, hoping to capture any procedural errors for an appeal. He never imagined it would capture this. "You're asking me to betray everything I am, everything I'm fighting to teach my daughter about right and wrong." Isabella stepped back, suddenly aware of what she'd done, what she'd become. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Forget I said anything. This conversation never happened." But Joseph didn't move. Down the hall, he could hear Maya singing softly, the same lullaby he sang to her every night. His construction-scarred hands unclenched. "You said you made a mistake in there. Was that true, or just part of this proposition?" Isabella met his eyes, and for the first time, he saw the depth of her brokenness. "It was true. Your ex-wife's claims were unsubstantiated. You're a good father. Anyone can see that. But her lawyer is my ex-husband's golf partner." The pressure came from above. The revelation hit Joseph like a physical blow. "So my daughter suffers because of your political games." Isabella flinched. "It's not a game. It's survival. You don't understand what it's like to have everything you built destroyed by someone you trusted with your life." Joseph laughed bitterly. "Don't I? My ex-wife fabricated abuse claims to take Maya away. She's living with her new boyfriend, who's never even spoken to my daughter. So, don't tell me I don't understand betrayal." They stood there, two broken people in a hallway of justice that had failed them both. Isabella's phone buzzed. A text from her ex-husband. "Heard you ruled against that construction worker. Good call. Some people just aren't fit to be parents." The cruelty of it, the casual destruction of lives for political points finally broke something in her. "Monday," she whispered. "Give me until Monday. I'll fix this. No conditions. Know what I said before. Just let me fix this." Joseph studied her face, searching for deception. "Why should I trust you?" Isabella straightened. And for a moment, he saw the woman she must have been before life broke her. Because that little girl down the hall deserves better than what happened today. And maybe if I can save one family, I can start to forgive myself for failing to save my own. Joseph nodded slowly, the recording still running in his pocket. Eve, Monday. Then the weekend stretched before Joseph like an eternity. Maya sat at their small kitchen table, her crayons spread out as she drew another picture of their family, always 3 figures. Even though her mother had left 2 years ago, she still included her, hoping. Joseph watched from the doorway, his coffee growing cold in his hands. The apartment was clean but sparse, every corner showing the struggle of a single father making ends meet. The walls held Maya's artwork, the only decoration they could afford. "Daddy, when do I have to go to the foster home?" Maya asked without looking up from her drawing. The casualness of the question shattered Joseph's heart. She'd heard enough in the courtroom to understand too much for a 6-year-old to process. "You're not going anywhere, baby. Daddy's going to fix this." Maya finally looked up, her blue eyes, her mother's eyes, studying him with that unsettling wisdom she possessed. "Is that why the pretty judge wanted to talk to you? Is she going to help us?" Joseph nearly dropped his coffee. Children saw everything, understood more than adults gave them credit for. "Maybe, sweetheart. It's complicated." Maya returned to her drawing. She looked sad like Mrs. Henderson next door after her husband went to heaven. "Maybe she needs a friend." Joseph moved to sit beside his daughter, marveling at her empathy even in the midst of their own crisis. "You have a good heart, Maya. Never lose that." Across town, Isabella Sterling sat in her downtown penthouse, surrounded by luxury that felt like a prison. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city lights. But she saw only her reflection, a woman she no longer recognized. Her phone sat on the marble countertop. 17 missed calls from her ex-husband, 3 from her mother, and 1 from the chief judge. She ignored them all. Instead, she pulled out her laptop and began researching Joseph Carter. His life unfolded on the screen in court documents and social media posts. A Marine veteran, honorably discharged, a construction worker who'd been steadily employed until his ex-wife began her campaign to destroy him. Pictures of him and Maya at the park, at her school's father-daughter dance, building a snowman last winter. Every image showed a devoted father, a good man caught in a bad situation. Isabella poured herself another glass of wine, her third, and continued reading. His ex-wife Brittany had a history of instability, 3 restraining orders from previous relationships. How had this been overlooked? The answer came in an email from earlier that week, one she'd initially dismissed. Her ex-husband's friend, Brittany's lawyer, had made it clear. Rule against Joseph or face questions about her own mental fitness during the judicial review. Isabella had caved, choosing her career over justice. The wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the marble floor. Red wine spread like blood, and Isabella just watched it, unable to move, unable to care. Her phone rang again. This time, she recognized the number, her therapist's emergency line. Dr. Sarah Chin had been treating her since the divorce. One of the few people who knew how close to the edge Isabella had come. Isabella, I got your message. You sounded distressed.
Can we talk?
Isabella laughed high and brittle. I propositioned a man today, Sarah, a defendant in my court. I offered to trade sex for a favorable ruling. So, yes, you could say I'm distressed. The silence on the other end stretched out before Dr. Chin spoke, her voice carefully neutral. Are you safe right now? Are you having thoughts of self-harm? Isabella looked at the broken glass at her feet.
No, maybe.
I don't know anymore. I just wanted to feel something besides this emptiness. He's handsome, you know. Joseph Carter, strong, the kind of man who could make you feel safe. And his daughter. She reminds me of the child you lost, Dr. Chin finished gently. Isabella's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach, to the place where life had grown for 7 months before the accident, before her husband's drunk mistress had run the red light. Emily would have been 6 now, the same age as Maya Carter. The admission hung in the air, the heart of her breakdown finally exposed. Isabella, I'm coming over.
Don't do anything. Just wait for me.
But Isabella had already ended the call. She stood, walked barefoot through the broken glass, feeling the sharp pain with a strange detachment. Blood marked her path to the home office where she kept her legal files. Somewhere in here was the key to fixing what she'd broken. If she couldn't save herself, at least she could save Joseph and Maya. Her feet left bloody prints on the white carpet, but she didn't care. Physical pain was nothing compared to what she carried inside. Meanwhile, Joseph sat with his phone playing the recording over and over. Isabella's proposition, her confession about the corruption, all of it captured in digital clarity. He could destroy her with this, take it to the media, ensure Maya came back to him. But something stopped him. The pain in her voice, the desperation, he recognized it. It was the same tone he'd heard in his own voice the night Brittany left, taking Mia with her before he'd fought to get his daughter back. Maya had fallen asleep on the couch, her latest drawing clutched in her small hands. Joseph carefully extracted it, his breath catching when he saw what she'd drawn. It was the courtroom, but in her version, everyone was smiling. She'd drawn Isabella with tears on her face, but surrounded by hearts. At the bottom, did I end her careful printing? She'd written, "Sometimes sad people need hugs more than mad." Joseph folded the picture carefully and made a decision that would have seemed insane to anyone else. He pulled out his phone and found the number for the courthouse. After hours, it went to voicemail, but he knew Isabella checked them, especially for cases pending review. Judge Sterling, this is Joseph Carter. I know you said Monday, but I think we should talk before then, not about what you said in the hallway, about something else, about moving forward. My daughter, she thinks you need a friend. And maybe she's right. Maybe we both need to remember that there's more to justice than rules and revenge. Call me. Isabella heard the message an hour later after Dr. Chin had arrived and bandaged her feet. After the crisis had passed, but the pain remained. Joseph's voice offering something she hadn't expected. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. She played it 3 times before Dr. Chin gently took the phone away. Who is this man? Isabella laughed, but this time it held a note of wonder. He's the one I tried to destroy. And now he might be the one who saves me from myself. The night deepened, and across the city, 2 broken people lay awake thinking about redemption, justice, and the possibility that sometimes the worst moments in our lives can lead to unexpected grace. Maya slept peacefully, her dreams full of hearts and smiles, unaware that her simple drawing had set in motion events that would change all their lives forever. In her sleep, she whispered, "Daddy, the sad judge needs us." And Joseph, keeping watch beside her, whispered back, "I know, baby. I know." The clock on the wall ticked toward midnight, toward Sunday, toward a meeting that would challenge everything they thought they knew about right and wrong, about justice and mercy. Isabella stood at her window, looking out at the city lights, her bandaged feet a reminder of how far she'd fallen. But for the first time in months, she felt something besides despair. Hope, fragile as spider's silk, began to weave itself through the darkness. Tomorrow she would face Joseph Carter, not as a judge, but as a human being, and maybe, just maybe, that would make all the difference. Sunday morning arrived with unexpected rain, washing the city clean. Joseph stood in his best shirt, the only one without stains or tears, holding Mia's hand as they waited outside the small cafe Isabella had suggested. It was far from the courthouse in a neighborhood where nobody would recognize the youngest family court judge in the state. Maya wore her favorite dress, the purple one with butterflies, insisted upon when Joseph told her they were meeting someone who needed help. Isabella arrived 15 minutes late. Having sat in her car for 20 minutes gathering courage, she looked different outside her judicial robes, younger, more vulnerable in her simple jeans and sweater. The designer clothes stayed in her closet. Somehow meeting Joseph and Maya demanded authenticity, not armor. When she saw them through the rain-streaked window, Maya waving enthusiastically, something cracked open in her chest. "You came," she said unnecessarily, as she approached their table. Joseph stood, old-fashioned courtesy ingrained from his military days. "We said we would." Maya piped up. "I brought you something." She pushed a folded paper across the table. Another drawing. This one of a rainbow after a storm. "My daddy says rainbows mean hope. You look like you needed some hope." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. She didn't try to hide this time. They sat awkwardly at first, the weight of Friday's encounter heavy between the adults, but Maya, blessed with the innocent wisdom of children, broke the tension. "Are you sick?" "My teacher says sometimes people get sick in their hearts, not just their bodies." "Is your heart sick?" Isabella looked at Joseph, seeking permission to be honest. He nodded slightly. "Yes, sweetheart. My heart is very sick. Someone I loved hurt me badly." Maya considered this seriously. "My mommy hurt us, too. She said she loved us, but then she left. Daddy cried for a long time, but he said crying is okay because it waters the seeds of new happiness." Joseph flushed. "Maya, I don't think Judge Sterling needs to hear." But Isabella held up her hand. "No, please."
She's right.
"I haven't let myself cry. I've been too angry, too proud." The waitress came and Mia ordered pancakes with extra syrup, chattering about her favorite toppings while the adults found their footing. When the food arrived, Mia insisted on saying grace, reaching for both their hands. "Thank you for food and rain and new friends. And please help the sad people be happy again." Amen. The simple prayer undid them both. Joseph squeezed his daughter's hand, and Isabella held on like it was a lifeline. "I've been researching your case," Isabella said quietly, while Maya focused on her pancakes. "Your ex-wife's attorney filed documents with falsified dates. The supposed evidence of neglect happened when you were deployed overseas. It's provable perjury." Joseph's coffee mug stopped halfway to his lips. "You found proof." Isabella nodded enough to not just reverse my ruling, but potentially bring charges against Brittany and her lawyer. But your ex-husband will destroy you if you do it." Joseph finished. Isabella nodded miserably. "He has photos from my breakdown 3 months ago." The night I found out about his affairs, I went to his office and I destroyed things. His assistant called the police. He's been holding it over me, using it to control my rulings. If I expose his friend's corruption, those photos go public. My career ends. Maya looked up, syrup on her chin. Why do people be so mean? Don't they know it hurts? The innocence of the question, the pure incomprehension of cruelty, made the adults look at each other with shared understanding. They were letting the cruel people win by playing their games. You know what, Maya? Isabella said, her voice growing stronger. You're absolutely right. People shouldn't be mean, and maybe it's time someone stood up to the mean people. Joseph set down his coffee carefully. Judge Sterling. Isabella, please. I think we're past formalities. He nodded. Isabella, I have the recording from Friday. Your proposition, your confession about the corruption. She went very still. I know. I saw you reach for your phone. I've been waiting for it to surface for my final humiliation. Joseph pulled out his phone, found the recording, and deleted it in front of her. Some things shouldn't be preserved. We've both been hurt enough. Isabella stared at him in shock.
Why?
You could have destroyed me. Guaranteed custody of Maya. Joseph looked at his daughter, who was building a pyramid with sugar packets. What would that teach her? That when someone is drowning, you hold them under. She already has one parent who believes in cruelty. She doesn't need to. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Isabella excused herself, fled to the bathroom, and finally let herself cry. Deep, wrenching sobs that had been building for months. When she returned, eyes red but clearer than they'd been in months, she found Maya had moved to her side of the booth. Daddy says hugs help when you're sad. Is it okay if I hug you? Isabella looked at Joseph, who nodded permission, and then carefully embraced the little girl who smelled like syrup and innocence. Maya whispered, It's going to be okay. My daddy and I will help you. We're good at fixing broken things. The rain had stopped by the time they left the cafe. As they stood on the sidewalk, Isabella made a decision that would have seemed impossible just days ago. Tomorrow morning, I'm filing a motion to reverse my ruling, and I'm reporting the corruption to the Judicial Review Board. Joseph started to protest, thinking of what she'd lose, but she continued. I have something else, too, security footage for my office. My ex-husband meeting with Brittany's lawyer 2 weeks before your hearing. They plan this whole thing to test my compliance. That's your insurance policy? Joseph realized. Mutual destruction if they come after you. Isabella smiled grimly. Sometimes you have to play their game to end it. Maya tugged on her father's hand. Can Judge Isabella come to dinner tonight? I want to show her my fort. Both adults started to refuse, the impropriety obvious, but Maya's hopeful face stopped them. Just dinner, Isabella said quietly. Just being normal people for once. That evening in Joseph's modest apartment, Isabella helped cook spaghetti while Mia narrated every piece of art on the walls. They ate at the small table. Maya insisting Isabella sit in Mommy's old chair, which had been empty for 2 years. After dinner, Mia performed her school talent show dance, and they applauded like she was on Broadway. For 3 hours, they weren't a judge and a defendant caught in a web of corruption and pain. They were just 3 wounded people finding unexpected comfort in shared company. As Isabella prepared to leave, Maya was already asleep on the couch. Joseph walked her to the door. This is dangerous, Isabella said softly. What we're doing tomorrow. Your ex-wife, my ex-husband, they'll fight back hard. Joseph nodded. I know, but Maya's watching. She needs to see that sometimes doing the right thing is worth the risk. Isabella looked back at the sleeping child. She's extraordinary. That empathy, that wisdom. You've raised someone special. She's teaching me more than I'm teaching her, Joseph admitted. Like today, I wanted to hate you. It would have been easier. But she saw past the pain to the person underneath. Maybe we all need to do more of that. Isabella met his eyes. Joseph, what I said Friday in the hallway.
He stopped.
Was pain talking? We've all said things from pain. The question is what we do next. She left then, driving through empty streets with a strange lightness in her chest. Tomorrow would bring battle, possibly destruction, but Tonight she'd remembered what it felt like to be human, to be seen not as a title or a failure, but as a person deserving of compassion. Maya's drawing, the rainbow after the storm, was tucked in her purse. Hope the child had called it. Isabella was starting to believe she might be right. The storm was passing. What came next might not be easier, but it would be honest. And after months of lies and manipulation, honesty felt like freedom. Monday morning arrived with Isabella standing before the Judicial Review Board, her hands steady despite the earthquake in her chest. I'm filing evidence of corruption involving Senator Sterling and attorney Marcus Webb. The chief judge's face pad, Isabella placed the security footage on the desk. Her ex-husband paying Webb to pressure her. I also motioned to reverse the Carter custody case immediately based on falsified evidence. The room erupted. Senator Sterling burst through the doors, his face crimson. You ungrateful, I made you. I made. Without me, you're nothing. Security moved toward him, but Isabella raised her hand. And let him speak. Let everyone hear who he really is. He pulled out his phone, showing the photos of her breakdown. One click and every newspaper sees Judge Sterling's psychotic episode. Maya's voice suddenly rang out from the hallway. That's not nice. Joseph tried to hold her back, but she marched into the room. You're a bully. My daddy says bullies are just scared people acting mean. The senator stared at the little girl. This doesn't concern you, child. Maya stood taller. Yes, it does. You hurt Judge Isabella and tried to take me from my daddy. That's wrong. The chief judge looked between them all. Senator Sterling attempting to blackmail a sitting judge as a federal crime. Officers, arrest him. As handcuffs clicked, Isabella's ex-husband snarled. You'll regret this. I'll destroy you all. But Isabella felt only relief. The weight of months lifted. Joseph stepped forward. Your Honor, I'd like to make a statement about Judge Sterling's character. She saved us, he said simply. When she could have protected herself, she chose truth. That's the kind of judge families need. The board voted unanimously. Isabella retained her position. Joseph received full custody and criminal investigations began into the corruption network that had infected their system for years. 3 weeks later, Isabella received a package with no return address. Inside were documents that changed everything. Her ex-husband's secret accounts, bribes from multiple cases, enough to send him to prison for decades. But the real shock was the note. You weren't the only victim. Thank you for being brave. B. Brittany. Joseph's ex-wife had been blackmailed, too, forced to lie about Joseph to protect her sick mother's medical coverage. The senator controlled. Isabella immediately called Joseph. You need to see this. They met at the park where Maya was playing. As Joseph read, his hands shook. She never wanted to hurt us. He destroyed our family for leverage. Isabella watched Maya on the swings. He destroyed many families, but we can rebuild. Joseph looked at her, something shifting between them. Isabella, these weeks since the hearing, you've become important to us, to me. Before she could respond, Mia ran over. Judge Isabella, watch what I learned. As the child cartwheeled, Joseph continued quietly. I know it's complicated. Wrong. Maybe, but Maya's right. You belong with us somehow. Isabella's heart raced. Joseph, I tried to proposition you. How can you even look at me? He took her hand. Because I see who you really are. Not perfect, but real. Broken, but healing like us. That evening, they had dinner again. But this time it felt different. Natural. As Isabella helped with homework, Joseph watched them. Maya explaining math with patience while Isabella listened intently. His daughter hadn't laughed like this since before the divorce. When bedtime came, Mia hugged Isabella tightly. Don't leave, please. Daddy's happier when you're here. Isabella met Joseph's eyes over Maya's head, seeing her own longing reflected there. 6 months later, the courthouse was packed for Senator Sterling's sentencing. 20 years for corruption, blackmail, and conspiracy. As the gavel fell, Isabella felt nothing but peace. Beside her, Joseph held her hand publicly for the first time. Maya sat between them drawing another picture. This one showing their new reality. 3 figures holding hands. Finally whole. After the verdict, Brittany approached tentatively. Joseph, Isabella, I'm so sorry. When he threatened my mother's life, I couldn't. Joseph studied his ex-wife's gaunt face, seeing the truth. You were a victim, too. Maya looked up at her mother. Are you better now? Brittany knelt down. I'm trying, baby. I'm so sorry I hurt you. Maya considered this, then hugged her mother. It's okay. Judge Isabella says forgiveness helps hearts heal. That evening, as they celebrated at home, their home now, Isabella having moved in 2 months prior, Maya presented her new drawing. It showed 5 figures, Joseph, Isabella, Maya, Brittany visiting, and a tiny figure with wings.
Who's that?
Isabella asked, her voice catching. Maya smiled. That's Emily, your baby in heaven. She's part of our family, too. Isabella broke down crying while Joseph held her later. As Maya slept, Joseph and Isabella stood on the balcony. I never thought I'd be happy again, Isabella whispered. Neither did I, Joseph replied. But Maya knew.
She saw what we could be before we did.
They kissed as the city lights twinkled below. Tomorrow, Isabella would officially adopt Maya. Next month, their wedding. But tonight, they were simply 3 souls who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk toward the light together. Proof that sometimes the worst moments in life are just preparation for the best ones yet to come.